Hi. One-eyed man is king in the land of the blind. Yes, I've said a million times I can always tell what people know and understand by the stuff that they recommend you read. This is not a video of recommended reading material because I'm pretty sure I have an inordinate number of videos on that topic already. I did want to point out some really important stuff and not cover the same bases once again, but actually point to peripheral things on how to actually have a superior mind to be a genius. This is not only applicable to people's young little rugrats, but to people themselves. It's never too late to learn. I'm 50 years old. I'm already still, of course, learning things and expanding skills. I never installed a stove before. I love learning skills and trades because even the people that are known for doing it, they do a lazy, sloppy job. So if I know how to do it, I know I could do a better job than they can 9 times out of 10, as long as I know all of the facts. One thing, collection of things I would have added to the end of this video, I'm just going to put it first since it's not on my list here, but I've got of points that I made, is that if everybody, and certainly so, every children, I'm going to edit that out of this video. Every child, this is what happens when you think about 10 things at once, actually. It's one of the pitfalls of perpetually thinking about many things at the same time that you're talking about them. The children don't learn and the adults don't know is that the pharmaceutical industry is not there to help you. One great thing, the most divine truths are really simple, kind of sayings in a nutshell. I know I've obviously failed at this. Like I had a piece of cheesecake a couple days ago. I should never eat stuff like that. I know I'm fat and generally unhealthy, so I'm not pretending, to be the standard bearer of that. I know exactly what I look like. I generally eat healthy. I just eat too much. And it's a saying that goes that if the food didn't exist 100 years ago, then you should not put it in your body. What wise words. I've heard a million different gurus of food, and I used to be super skinny, as my earliest videos prove. I know how to lose weight. After my wife died, I lost a lot of weight. It's just diet and exercise, and a few other things. Even learned a few tricks on the way. That people and children just don't realize that hospitals, unless you break a bone or something, they're places where pharmaceutical companies push their pills. And as far as the stuff that we consume, I swear to God, I've spent the last 40 years of my life watching kids going around drinking soda pop, Mountain Dew, which of course is a soda. We say soda pop here in the southern United States, right? Or soda, or fizzy cola. Mountain Dew, candy bars, Gatorade. Isn't that such a brilliant statement? I wish I'd heard that like 30 years ago. That if the food didn't exist 100 years ago, then you shouldn't be consuming it. That would mean meat, potatoes, veggies. I love veggies and salads, by the way. It's almost impossible to get a good salad anymore, right? Because they're all depleted nutrient garbage. I've actually had homegrown food, and of course we all know if city people really don't know about this. It absolutely boggles my mind that people have spent their entire life in the city. They have no idea what real food actually tastes like a homegrown peach or watermelon or lettuce, tomatoes, like real ones. Like go to Sardinia or Italy, which I've never been there, and I've had a couple of things brought back from there. Anyway, I wish children, because you could study all the stuff and have a sharp mind, but if you're sick, it's kind of like having a broken radio. The body's a broken radio. Like mine's partially broken, as you can see by the way that I look, obviously so. But, other than eating too much and not getting enough exercise, I generally eat healthy. But you can't even go to the grocery store and get healthy stuff. Part of having a clean mind that knows how to work properly is obviously having a clean engine and cars. So you have the driver, which would be the mind, obviously, and certainly so the body. The Greeks and the Romans have been teaching that for thousands of years, but this isn't taught in school anymore. It's like, well, you need to exercise, and then I unfortunately went to public school like you probably did, and there's just nothing there but garbage. I mean, what do they give you? You know, just trash, like on the, if you get the school lunch, like macaroni and cheese and some sort of mystery meat. That's the same sort of garbage that they feed prisoners. I have absolutely no love of schools. One of the most horrific things that you could do to your progeny is to send them to public school. I want to make a quick little video here about having a superior mind and being a genius. And also, too, something I've said for years is that trash screams and quality is mute or silent. If you go to any bookstore, you will find nothing at a retail bookstore. Even a used book, like half-price books where they sell used books, you might find a gem there super, super rarely. But trash screams and quality is mute. And if it's really good, it goes out of print immediately. And if it's trash, it goes into 5, 10, so on and so forth of printings. There are certain websites online, archive.org, pdfdrive.com. I'm not connected to either one of those. But thanks to me, many countless thousands of books that have vanished into obscurity now exist for people to have access to. Don't ask me for links to these books. They're out there in the interwebs, right? And thanks to me, you're welcome. Some people have actually seen, like when I scan a book in, they'll see my tattooed hand on the back. I won't talk about that. I grew up listening to classical music. Harp music is my favorite. I still listen to classical music. I listen to everything really other than rap or country, but the Pythagoreans were right. It does structure your mind in a certain way to attunement. The Pythagoreans called this logos of attuning oneself to the divine and elevation rather than debasement. They called it yugata. It's the reason why I have yugata tattooed on my fingers there. People say, what's the Greek letters tattooed on your fingers? And it's the Pythagorean phrase, yugata. I won't get into talking about that one. But I mean, here's a perfect example, published in 1977. This exists out there on like PDF Drive and some other places, and I have the rights to Dr. A.K. Kumaraswamy's works, thanks to his son, who was friends with Dr. Rame P. Kumaraswamy, who was a cardiac surgeon. This is called Traditional Art and Symbolism. It's part of a 3-volume collection. Kumaraswamy wrote 27 books. No, not 27, like 47, excuse me. I was thinking of another author. Hundreds of articles, knew 27 languages, 27 languages, countless dozens of books, a true brilliant mind. This is only one thing, though. Like Julius Evola, and I have a reading list in the description below. If you actually click on the link, there's a link within that link that leads you to top recommended reading lists. But it's good for any person at any age, including a child, to listen to classical music. My favorite is harp music, but I love basically all forms of classical music. Children don't learn in school. There's a million reasons why nobody should go to public school. They shuttle the kids around in buses. They're no different than prison buses. They feed them the same slop and garbage and filth that they feed prisoners. They're actually chastised for getting wrong answers, but that's part of life, actually. Failure has made the greatest people, the same way you sharpen a sword as you set it against the grinding wheel, right? Swords that aren't, ground and honed are not sharp, and they're not good swords or knives. So the fact that kids develop anxieties over getting the wrong answers, but growing minds should experience mistakes and errors, and as long as they learn from those, public schools are just 1,000 ways horrible. But kids don't learn hands-on problem solving. I grew up taking broken stuff apart and examining it, learning how things work. If you want like free training, people say, oh God, tools to teach kids and whatnot is so expensive. You can go to camera stores and get dead cameras and have your kids take them apart. Make sure you watch out for things that have capacitors in them, since they're dangerous. But all sorts of things should be taken apart. Learn how lasers work. how computers work, and when you actually go above that, you need to know what the actual technology is, learn about fields and electricity, and none of that stuff is taught in high school or college unless you become an electrical engineer. And I've talked to countless experts in electrical engineering that have degrees, and it's like, we never learned about dielectricity, we never learned about fields, we never learned about light. Three-dimensional analysis and analytics are actually incredibly important. Go home, and of course they don't read good stuff like this. They read trash history, trash math, and they have a two-dimensional. Go home and memorize this garbage. This isn't garbage, but go home and memorize the garbage, and come back, and we'll have a multiple guess test. And you cannot learn that way, where you have 4 answers and you have a 25% of hitting it right. That's no different than playing the slot machine in Vegas. Dropping in a quarter, you got a certain percentile of getting it, hitting it. That is not an education by any definition. So three-dimensional analytics are incredibly important. This involves taking things apart. Also, too, playing chess. I'm not for playing games, but it's actually, and it should only be done until one is quite proficient at it, and then you move on. It's like, I've learned that lesson fully. Unless someone wants to do that for the rest of their life, actually learning how to play chess and problem solving. Kids and adults need to learn about delayed gratification. Delayed gratification actually has an enormous value and potential. I know rich people that actually work like this. They will not spend a single penny. I call it pouncing, and by pouncing, it's kind of like a cat, will see a mouse or something, and it'll pounce on it. It will hesitate, for a very long time, possibly, and then it will pounce on something. This is waiting for the moment when something great comes along. I do that on land, Look and look and look and look and look. It's like, oh man, here's a steal I know I can make some money off of. You can pounce on it. Same is true for the stock market. To buy it or invest it, or you're looking for something but it's hard to find it, used, you can't afford a new one, so you have delayed gratification and you pounce on something that can make you money or something to invest in. Cross-disciplinary physics and metaphysics lets a person see one thing, for example, from many different angles. The same building looks totally different from the lit side as it does from the shadow side, and this is crudely taught in college and high school and junior high, that you'll have, I'm going to teach math, I'm going to learn reading. You have this cross-disciplinary approach, but it's not actually applied correctly at all by colleges or universities or high school. Such you're able to see one thing from many different angles. This is how I actually introduce physical models to give perfect analogs to understanding metaphysics. The best geniuses throughout time have used multidisciplinary approaches to both problem solving and to the nature of understanding, because everything is so interconnected. You can find parallels in everything. I've used radio analogies to talk about metaphysics. Everything, of course, is a field, including human emotions. Net result of movement, like the best art, for example, are things that either draw you in, push you away, or cause you to stop. And so the net result is an effect in the kinetic nature of one's awareness and their interaction with that piece of artwork. And that makes actually understanding art. It's like, what is it about this piece of art that, people love so much? What is it about The Wizard of Oz, for example? Everybody's seen The Wizard of Oz movie. And they know they love it. Most people do anyway. The old one, the original Wizard of Oz. But they don't know why. Or The Matrix, for example, which is a modern version, kind of The Wizard of Oz, because it has all of these substrings and subsets of metaphysical principles, the spiritual quest, or Dorothy, and she meets these people along the way, which is cowardice, strength, and there are characteristics of Dorothy which she had to have collectively, to fight off the Wicked Witch. And ultimately, when she reached the goal, these gurus, vis-a-vis the Wizard of Oz, for example, is a fool and a coward, and she had the strength the whole time. She didn't even need to take the quest the whole time, and people don't realize that there's this huge metaphysical stream that actually runs through the movie. So this cross-disciplinary approach do both physics and metaphysics. With metaphysics, you're able to see physics clearly, and with physics, you're able to understand metaphysics clearly. Because metaphysics and physics are not two different things. You're inverse sides of the exact same silver of the coinage. Once again, always tell what people know and understand by the garbage they recommend. People say, what about Rene Guénon? I say, fool. What about Madame Blavatsky? I hear that all the time. Fool. What about Carl Jung? He's writes some good stuff. Also, too, fool. Is this better than the common rack and rabble out there? Yes, it is, but life is still short, and I cannot recommend stuff like that. People say, "What? Wait a minute." They ask my opinion on these things. Like, is it worth reading? Like, no. What about G.R.S. Mead? Nope, not worth reading. Not Rene Guénon, not Fridtjof Schuon, not Carl Jung, not Alan Watts. There's two different Alan Watts. One is a horrific character. All these, fake pseudo-intellectuals, false gurus, and just people that just write trash. And it's okay to be ignorant when people ask questions. Acknowledgement of ignorance is a great thing. The one thing that they should have taught kids in school, and there's 1,000 points like this, I should teach a class on it, is that a genuine truth seeker is happy to be proven right and happy to be proven wrong. If you're proven right, you know you're on the right track. If you are proven wrong and you're open to it, then you are also, too, happy if you're a wisdom seeker and a truth seeker, because like I was making a mistake before, now I've been corrected with facts, logic, and wisdom and or evidences, depending on the subject, so now I'm on the right track. But people set up their own belief system, and this is also, too, never taught in high school or college. It should be taught in elementary school and every grade school. The most important thing, for you to understand, kiddies, is that you are not your beliefs. And if you are to be a wholesome, good person, you must be open to not only being proven right, but also to be even more happy to be proven wrong. How many people these days are happy to be proven wrong? It's like none. Like, how dare you say that about me? It's like, no, you're a fine person and all, but what you're saying is incorrect, fallacious, egregious, erroneous. You're making this mistake because of boom, boom, boom. Here's a claim, here's the evidences, here's the substantiation. You're wrong. I don't just say you're wrong, but here's the substantiations, facts, logic, and evidences as to why you're wrong. And none of this stuff is taught in high school or college, and certainly so never in public school. Absolutely never is. So since life is short, the good news, and I've said this before, is that these geniuses, vis-a-vis like Roger Boscovich, the text of Theoria, he wrote Theoria Philosophiae Naturalis, John Scotus Erigena, who wrote one book everybody should read, The Periphesian. There's a free download, by the way, out there, thanks to me. You're welcome. These people did not read copious tons of material like kids today at school. Oh, we got a better education system. No, you don't. These geniuses, true geniuses, they did not read and memorize tons of garbage. They did not take thousands and thousands of multiple guess tests in public school. They read a small core of incredible stuff. Plato, Plotinus, Proclus, Numenius, Iamblichus, Cydianus, Damasius, Porphyry, the works of Plato, the works of Proclus, the works of Aristotle. I'm not a big fan of Aristotle. He does write some highly analytical, really good stuff, though. The Periphesian by John the Scot that I mentioned, which everybody should frigging read. The Enneads of Plotinus, The Universal One of Walter Russell, Philosophies of Right of Rebirth by Aldous Hudivinus, excuse me. This is the good news. People waste their life away, especially school kids, reading, and I've spent most of my life reading. I guarantee you I've read more than probably most of you combined. I'm not against reading, obviously so. My house is basically like a library. But life is too short to read garbage. Go home and memorize this garbage. We're going to have a multiple guess test later. That is not an education. All it does is cause anxiety, stress, and it burns kids out. They have this light bulb in their spirit, their soul to learn, and the desire to learn, but it is burned out. That's all public schools do, is they burn it out. And there's a reason for this. J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller, these satanic, hardcore evil entities which established our education system, they didn't want smart people, and they certainly didn't want wise people. They wanted good workers. You know, people that could build widgets on the factory floor and the assembly line. They didn't want smart people or what. I mean, that's dangerous. There is nothing more dangerous than a free thinker who knows what to think and is like, oh, that's fallacy. What you said there is BS because boom, 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 boom. They don't want people like that. This is the same system we still have today. Please, God, get your kids out of public school, whatever you do. Well, I don't have time. I got to work. Who cares? Find a way. Memorization and guessing is not an education. The really, really important thing is that you and your progeny need to learn about fallacies. Well, there's a straw man fallacy. This is a fallacy of composition. Like, no, that's fallacious what you said, and here's the reason why. Boom, boom, boom. Learning about fallacies, really, really, really important. And you could learn about fallacies in a week. Like the 100 most important fallacies and identifying them. That's like one of the best things anybody could have in the toolbox within their mind. Learning about fallacies, because the whole world is lying to you. Like when you see on TV, limited number. Well, 1 billion is a limited number. Act now, call the number with a limited number. So, well, that's fallacious. A limited number, even 10 billion is a limited number. So, identifying these things, which are so, so wrong. Everybody should learn about fallacies. Kids and most adults need to learn about money rather than how to make money. Why is you get school, college, get a good job? You're going to work for somebody. They're just learning how to do something ignorantly with their brain half off rather than learning about money itself. Fools work for money and the wise make money work for them. I have partially failed on this, yes? I was focused in on all the other important stuff, and so I did not learn about a lot of that growing up. I mean, I will admit that I failed on that. I struggle hard to make ends meet, but I am incredibly intelligent, and I'm certainly so quite wise. Whatever you think of that statement one way or another, I am unconcerned. Kids and yourself as well need to learn at least 5 fundamental life skills. You take your pick. My top 5 would be repair, know how you repair things. You know how glues and screws and rivets and, how those work. Learn about load stressing and whatnot, like someone that's actually building. Well, I need to do this and I need to do that. Being able to see, this is where chess comes involved, where you see 5 steps ahead. Well, if I do this, then that happens. When that happens, then this happens. Chess is really important. It's not about playing a friggin' game. It's about thinking multiple steps ahead, and developing that skill is really important. Repair, building things, self-defense, and protection of self and property. Design, how to design things. When you design stuff, like, well, if I do this, then that's going to happen. If that happens, that's bad, so I'm going to redesign it here. Then you have to plan ahead, draw things out, either in your mind or on paper or both. Either woodworking, and my choice is leatherworking. I prefer leatherworking over woodworking. If you have yourself or your progeny, your child, embrace these things. Study. They need to be things that elevate them, not debase them. Playing games on your iPad, watching trash on various tube sites. It is funny, and everybody needs some time down, but some downtime. I certainly need some downtime. But humanity today is suffering really horribly by self-debasement. Watching zombie movies, having zombie parties, debasement. You're supposed to be spending your life trying to elevate your spirit, not debase it. What people do with their lives, however, is none of my darn business. Also, too, nobody's taught the distinction between episteme and gnosis. Empirical knowledge and wisdom. Intellect must be taught in order to analyze and collate data. Yeah? Data analyzation. And, of course, knowing how to collate it. Wisdom must be taught, of course, for many reasons, but also, too, to know what to do with the data that your intellect is collated. It's like, you have the intellect within your being. It's collated and processed the data. This is passed the smell test. And then it is wisdom's job to take that paperwork and know what to do with it. how to act upon it. Very importantly. Never confuse intellect with wisdom. Were you taught this stuff in high school or college? No, you weren't. But once again, and this is a really important statement, like someone will roll their eyes like, oh, this is too much for me, life is, can't. The most brilliant, ingenious minds did not have to read mountains of garbage and take multiple guess tests. They had to work hard on the farm and, bring in the food, bring home the bacon, as it were. And so they had a lot less time growing up because they had to work the farm and do all sorts of chores. Obviously so. These people became geniuses not by studying and memorizing enormous piles of garbage, which is what public school systems and colleges do, but by studying and having insight into only a small collection of stuff. Really, really good stuff. There is gold to read and to ruminate on. The stuff that is taught in high school and college is trash, garbage, self-defeating. It will destroy a young person or a mid-adult person's desire to, it's completely like taking your wet fingers and snuffing out a flame. It'll completely ruin them. It'll just turn them into burnouts. They will hate to learn. They will associate learning with all the sadistry and evil, just pure dark evil of the public school system. Now we're going to memorize this garbage. You got multiple guess tests. You need to write a thesis. It needs to be 30 pages long. I'm going to grade it. And then when they do something, as long as they stuck in their full effort, it's like, oh, I gave you a D- because you didn't do exactly what it destroys people. It is not how education is supposed to be. Everything in the public education system is trash, garbage, evil, and worse. You're a product of it. I saw through it. I knew it was trash from start to finish. That's why my teachers hated me. I was a really good person in school and didn't create any problem, but I knew my teachers were fools. I told many of them they were fools. I knew better, and I damn sure well was right. So I intellectually prospered in spite of their sadistic evils, and they are nothing other than the demons that were spawned by Rockefeller and Ford, and who's the other one? The three demons that basically developed our modern education system, and it's not an education system at all. Anyway, I hope you found this. I tried to make this video kind of short and sweet, but this is really important, and it makes life easier, better. It's just a lot better. It does. It's just everybody will suffer under the yoke of stupidity with the pathetic, horrific, anti-productive tools given to you by public school system and your college degree. Who is better? This is a trick question. It's not a trick question. Who is better? Somebody that went to Harvard Medical School or somebody with a high school diploma who studied acutely with a desire to learn and understand under a prestigious doctor and or a emergency room doctor, and then a cardiac surgeon who would actually have superior skills. Never went to medical school, but he studied under prestigious doctors, watched everything they did very acutely, right side by side with the face mask on while surgery is being performed. Who is better? Who would be more apt to save your life and not screw up? The guy without a medical degree that actually studied under the masters. So what about being a lawyer? What about being a doctor or a nurse? The things you need to know, what to do, what not to do, but that doesn't. Unfortunately, it does require a degree to become a doctor or a nurse, obvious reasons, and then you still need to intern. I've heard this from many doctors. Like, I went to medical school, and then when I got out, I learned that everything I was taught was garbage, and now I would really learn how it's really done. I was like, what a waste of time and money. What a waste! It's like, who would you trust? Well, I studied under a prestigious doctor for 5 years, and this guy's like, I just got out of Harvard Medical School. I have my degree. Do you know how to operate? And no, I don't. I'll learn how to do that after 4 years of interning, in emergency room. And yeah, hey, you got out of Harvard Medical School. Hey, prestigious doctor so-and-so. Wonderful. You still need to do your internship and have years and years of skill. It's all a scam. It's just a scam. That piece of paper is nothing other than toilet paper. Look at this, you spent